In this video, I'm going to show you a few verb structures that you can use to create many different sentences in Spanish. We'll start with gustar. Gustar means to like. In this case, we are going to use the indirect object pronouns plus the word gusta plus an infinitive verb. There are other ways to use the verb gustar, but in this specific lesson, we're going to look at this one. So we really just need to add the indirect object pronoun plus gusta and the infinitive verb in Spanish. For example, me gusta bailar. Me gusta bailar. I like to dance. You can use the same structure with the other indirect object pronouns. Te gusta bailar. You like to dance. Te gusta bailar. Le gusta bailar. Le gusta bailar. He or she likes to dance. Or it can be used for the formal singular you as well. You like to dance. Nos gusta bailar. Nos gusta bailar. We like to dance. Les gusta bailar. Les gusta bailar. They like to dance. Or the plural you. You like to dance. Os gusta bailar. Os gusta bailar. You all like to dance. For vosotros or vosotras. Os gusta bailar. So what you're going to do is take the indirect object pronouns plus the verb gusta and pair that with other infinitive verbs in Spanish. We already saw bailar, to dance. But you could also say leer, to read. Comer, to eat. Viajar, to travel. Estudiar, to study. Dormir, to sleep. Correr, to run. Cocinar, to cook. Trabajar, to work. So now all you have to do is take the first two parts, me plus gusta, and you can use that with any of these verbs to create all of those sentences, and you can also use it with the rest of the pronouns. Me gusta leer, te gusta comer, le gusta viajar, nos gusta estudiar, les gusta dormir, os gusta correr, me gusta cocinar, te gusta trabajar. And you can do that for each and every single one of them. And that will give you a lot of sentences without you having to learn and memorize all of the verb conjugations. You can also use this structure for the other tenses. You just have to change gusta to the correct one. For example, if you wanted to talk about the conditional, you will use gustaría instead of gusta. Gustaría. And you can do the same exercise. Me gustaría bailar. Te gustaría leer. Le gustaría comer. Gustaría doesn't change, but again, this structure only works with the infinitive verb. If you were to change the infinitive verbs to nouns, the verb conjugation for gustar would be different. Now let's take a look at the second structure. We are going to use deber. Deber, which means should or must. This one we do have to conjugate to the correct person. We don't use the indirect object pronouns here. We use the subject pronouns, or we can omit the pronouns altogether because we have to conjugate the verb. So here we have the subject pronoun, yo, for example, then the conjugated deber verb. In this case is debo. And then we add an infinitive verb. For example, estudiar. Yo debo estudiar. Yo debo estudiar. I must study. So to use it with the other pronouns, the other persons, we just need to conjugate it. For tú, the informal you, debes. Tú debes estudiar. Tú debes estudiar. For he, she, or the formal you in singular mode, él, ella, usted, debe. Debe. Él debe estudiar. He must study. Ella debe estudiar. She must study. For nosotros or nosotras, we debemos. Nosotros debemos estudiar. We must study. Nosotros debemos estudiar. And for they or the plural you, ellos, ellas, ustedes, we use deben. Ellas deben estudiar. They must study. Ellas deben estudiar. And for vosotros, vosotras, the plural you is debéis. And this one is mainly used in Spain, debéis. Vosotros debéis estudiar. You all must study. So again, here we can just switch the infinitive verbs. Estudiar, to study. Trabajar, to work. Dormir, to sleep. Practicar, to practice. Leer, to read. Ahorrar, to save. Ayudar, to help. Cocinar, to cook. Of course, you can use any of the infinitive verbs that you want to use, but just remember that the structure is the personal pronoun, the conjugated deber verb, plus an infinitive verb. And again, you can use these in the different verb tenses. You just have to learn how to conjugate deber to the past, the future, the conditional, but the structure remains the same. Pronoun, the conjugated deber verb, plus an infinitive verb. The next verb that works very similarly is ir a, going to. And with this one, we are going to use the present tense of ir. So the structure is very similar. We see the pronoun, then the conjugated ir, plus an infinitive verb. For yo, we use voy. Yo voy a cocinar. I'm going to cook. Tú vas a cocinar. You're going to cook. Tú vas a cocinar. For él, ella, usted, we use va. Usted va a cocinar. The formal singular you are going to cook. Usted va a cocinar. Nosotros vamos a cocinar. We are going to cook. Nosotros vamos a cocinar. Ellos, ellas, ustedes van a cocinar. Ellos van a cocinar. They are going to cook. Ellos van a cocinar. And for vosotros or vosotras, we use vais. Vosotras vais a cocinar. You are going to cook. Vosotras vais a cocinar. So again, here, you just have to change the infinitive verb to create more sentences. So instead of saying cocinar, to cook, you could say comer, to eat. Estudiar, to study. Viajar, to travel. Comprar, to shop. Salir, to go out. Limpiar, to clean. Aprender, to learn. Escribir, to write. So you can mix and match to create more sentences. The next one is tener que, to have to. Tener que. And here we have to conjugate the verb tener, but the structure is very similar. We have the pronoun, then we have tener que, where the verb tener is conjugated, and then we have an infinitive verb. In present tense, we have tengo for the first person. Yo tengo que trabajar. Yo tengo que trabajar. I have to work. Tú tienes que trabajar. Tú tienes que trabajar. You have to work. Él, ella, usted tiene que trabajar. Él, ella, usted tiene que trabajar. He or she or the formal you have to work. Nosotros, nosotras tenemos que trabajar. Nosotros, nosotras tenemos que trabajar. We have to work. Ellos, ellas, ustedes tienen que trabajar. They or the plural you have to work. Ellos tienen que trabajar. And for vosotras, vosotros, we use tenéis. Vosotros tenéis que trabajar. Vosotros tenéis que trabajar. You all have to work. So to create more sentences, we just switch trabajar for a different infinitive verb. And again, we can use some of the ones we already saw. Estudiar, to study. Cocinar, to cook. Limpiar, to clean. Practicar, to practice. Conducir, to drive. Escribir, to write. Llamar, to call. But we wouldn't say I have to call, right? We have to have an object. So we could add more information to the sentence. For example, I have to call my mom. Yo tengo que llamar a mi mamá. So we can use the infinitive verb and add more information depending on what the verb is. So again, you can use this in the different tenses. You just have to conjugate the verb tener to the correct one. And if you learn more verbs in their infinitive mode, you'll be able to create more sentences as well. The last structure I have for you today is acabar de. Acabar de means to have just done something. So we have to conjugate acabar. For example, yo acabo de llegar. Yo acabo de llegar. I have just arrived. Yo acabo de llegar. Tú acabas de llegar. Tú acabas de llegar. You have just arrived. For él, ella, usted, we use acaba. Acaba de llegar. Acaba de llegar. For nosotros, nosotras, acabamos de llegar. Acabamos de llegar. For ellos, ellas, ustedes, we use acaban. Acaban de llegar. And for vosotros, vosotras, we use acabáis. Vosotros acabáis de llegar. Vosotros acabáis de llegar. So again, we can change llegar for other infinitive verbs, like comer, to eat, salir, to go out, estudiar, to study, limpiar, to clean, terminar, to finish, escribir, to write, hablar, to talk, despertar, to wake up, preparar, to prepare. With verbs like hablar and preparar, to talk and prepare, we are going to need the object. We are going to need more information. So you can just practice a little bit with more details with each sentence. But first, learn the structure. The pronoun plus acabar de plus the infinitive verb. Learn that. Try to learn the main verbs in the past, future, and conditional tenses as well, and then learn the infinitive verbs. That will allow you to create hundreds of sentences without having to memorize all of the verbs. Just with these 5 structures, you'll be able to say and understand a lot of Spanish. I really hope this made sense. Learning structures is very useful when learning languages. And to keep learning more Spanish, go watch this video next. Muchas gracias.